Welcome to I Believe. I'm so glad you're joining us today. Today is special. We're going to end today's session with a beautiful song that I wrote with Clint Brown. His performance of Mercy is Waiting. It's going to be really good. But I want to talk to you about something before we go there, before we get there. Let's read Luke chapter 15 and share this. It's going to be good. It's going to help somebody. Share this if you can. Luke chapter 15, verse 11. A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me," his inheritance. So he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after that, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. So he left and got away, squandered all of his money, and ended up eating with the pigs in the pig pen. And he came to his senses, and he said, "Even the servants at my father's house live better than this. Maybe I'll go back. I'm not worthy to be his son, but maybe I'll go back and I can be a servant, and at least not be in the pig pen eating with the pigs." So I want to say to that fella, you really thought you could run away from God? You really thought you could run away with God? So where do you go to run away from God? To a faraway land like this dim fella? Where do you go? Do you go to the bars and the clubs? Do you go on drug binges and turn to the bottle? Does that get you away from God? One of my ministry partners and her husband, they're great people of Pentecostal faith, and they're just so special to me. They have a minister son who is running away from his call. He's doing this, doing that. He's my friend. And I want to say, I almost said his name, I want to say, you really think this is going to work? You really think you can get away from the pull of the call of God on your life? The gifts and callings of God, I have news for you, they are irrevocable. You can't retire from it. You can't sin your way out of it. Ask Samson. He sinned. He made a poor choice. He disobeyed God. He broke his covenant with God when Delilah cut his hair. But when it all ended up in the end, he shook himself and thought he was still anointed, but that glory had left. But in the end, he killed more Philistines on that last day of his life than he killed all the days of his life. That call of God, that destiny to be a warrior for God on Samson, Christianity's own, or the Old Testament's own Superman, our own superhero, our Sunday school hero, Samson, a judge. Did you know that he could not get away from his destiny, from God's purpose, from God's hand and call upon his life? Here's what the psalmist said in Psalm 139. Let's see, 139. Where can I go from your spirit? Verse 7. Or where can I flee from your presence? It's a rhetorical question. If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. I have a really good friend. Her name is Karen Daniel. And she and her husband, Bo Daniel, who's in heaven now, I ministered at his funeral years ago. My daughter was missing on the streets of Dallas, and we had ministered for them many times, and I was a single dad. She's 30 now. And I remember that he and Pastor Bo Daniel and Karen, his wife, were at my house staying and visiting, and my daughter was missing, and I was distraught. I couldn't think about anything else. I was devastated. They took me over to an evangelist friend in Hurst. Is that Hurst? Euless Bedford Hurst. Took me to Hurst and put me in a chair in the middle of the den. And those ministers surrounded me. And they began to encourage me. And they began to pray. And I had this reoccurring thought, this daytime nightmare, that my daughter at 14 years old would be in a hospital bed with no brain activity, on life support, me holding her hand. I couldn't get away from it. Then Pastor Bo Daniel said, I want to tell you a true story about a friend of ours. He said, it was a pastor and his wife, and their son years ago was in Vietnam. And there was a knock on the door, and there was a uniformed officer there. And he said, I have to tell you it's official. Your son is missing in action. So that pastor's wife, the mother of that missing soldier, began to walk back and forth in that home. And she began to cry out to God for 3 days, where is my son? Where is my son? Where is my son? And God spoke to her. And he said, he's right where you put him the day when he was a baby and you dedicated him to me. He is still there, right in the palm of my hand. And Pastor Daniel, Bo Daniel, looked at me as I was sitting in that chair in that minister's den. And he said, Gabrielle, your daughter is right in the palm of God's hand. And when she tries to get out over here, God will lift his finger and will not let her out. She has been there since the day you dedicated her to him. And that night I wrote a song. Right in the palm of his hand, right in the palm of his hand, our daughters and sons are safe, everyone, right in the palm of his hand. And God gave me a new vision. Instead of my daughter on a bed with no brain activity, I had a vision of my daughter with a microphone in her hand because she could sing, and she was leading worship. Right in there, past those doors, is a lady, Reba Rambo. At her church, not 1 year later, my daughter was on that worship team leading worship. If you make your bed in hell, he is there. Do you really think, prodigal son, prodigal daughter, that you can run away from God? You cannot run away from his call. You cannot run away from his assignment, from his purpose, from his love when you come back. Mercy.
When we don't deserve another chance, when we think God won't give us a second glance, for every mistake that we've made, there is an ocean of grace. Mercy is waiting with arms open wide. When your heart is breaking, that's when you'll find love never failing, sweet peace of mind for each step you're taking. I know mercy is waiting. Yes, it is.
If you just made a commitment to Christ or renew your commitment to Christ and you're a new believer, we have a phenomenal resource for you at no charge. Just go to jeffferguson.com, jeffferguson.com, and then click the new believer button. And we want to help you with some information for your new journey with the Lord. Welcome to the family of God. I'm so glad you joined us today on I Believe. If you want to become a part of our ministry family, just go to jeffferguson.com, jeffferguson.com, and fill out the information form there so we can be partners together in ministry. God bless you. We appreciate you so much.
I believe, yes I